Does everybody remember that song? It's a little bit early. It is, well, actually, it's not early. I've been up since 6 o'clock. My name is Lasha Rojenko. You've reached the channel High Voltage. To find out the origin, intent, and the goal of the channel, I won't go through all of that. For those of you that have been here, I always go through it. For those of you that are new, just know this is a non-donation charity, and if you want to find out why, please go to the playlist and there is a video called The Origin, Intent, and Goal of the Channel. And honestly, if you can make it through that video, I commend you. I commend you. We do non-donation raffles. I was not able to do one for quite a while, but we have around 80 days until 2026. Why do I wanted to start this live actually with the song My Anxiety. Da, 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 da. I've done a lot of dances to that song, shorts as it were, on this channel. And it's our community. So there's a lot to unwrap and then we will wrap it up. And why do I call this a wrap community? Because welcoming, respecting aspects of people's societies is very, very important. Now, actually, in thinking about how to proceed, because this is impromptu, I have no notes in front of me. A lot of my story will come out in little breadcrumbs during this explanation of anxiety. For anybody out there that has been in a psychiatric hospital, or if you're a teenager, an adult, um, uh, middle aged, in your 70s, 80s, and you've lived longer than everybody, you know, before I start with the amygdala, the cerebral cortex, anxiety, and mental health labels, let me just say, in reference to our elders, people need to respect those who have lived longer than us. But one of the things that I've learned is generations and generations move on and on and on. And every generation, back to my ancestors, would say, in my generation, and then in my mother's generation, she would say, well, in my generation, and then now in my generation, it's in my generation. And I think we can all learn from each other. I'm very, very tired of the royal family, Prince Harry, Meghan Markle, all of this baloney, all of these pharmaceutical companies making so much money off of our pain. And I went through a trauma that most human beings wouldn't survive. And I do not consider myself a victim. I don't even consider myself a survivor. I consider myself somebody who was literally on the outside of a hospital conspiracy. And I was in a wheelchair for a year, 4 surgeries. It took 8 years for me to fully recover. And I'm never going to fully recover from this because as a result of a trauma, it changes your brain. It does. And then you go to the psychiatrist and they give you a label. They labeled me as borderline personality disorder because my moods would change. Well, of course, my moods would change, for heaven's sakes. You know, Virginia Giuffre, like what I was violated in a very different way than a SA survivor. But there's still violations, they're still corrupt. It happened on a very lower level in government, in a hospital. If somebody comes up to you with a bat and breaks your knee, who do you call? You call the police, right? Logic. If you break your femur and you have an operation and the surgeon puts the hardware in the wrong place and doesn't say a word, and I, as the patient, knew something was wrong and advocated for myself under the most vulnerable positions, he made me feel like I was crazy because I had trouble with anxiety. And these labels and the way people treat those with so and so labels, and they give you medication for this and medication for that. All medication really does for anxiety, unless you're in you want to unalive yourself. It's the anxiety is so bad, and you need to get help from professionals. I find psychiatric wards are really used, and they use people with trauma, which is what causes anxiety. Everything and every human emotion, based on the research that I've done and based on my opinion, and everything I'm talking about is my opinion from my experience, from my looking lens. And I hope that anybody suffering out there can relate to this, because everybody has been violated. Everybody has been betrayed. And don't let anybody minimize your feelings. However, we are getting into a society where people's skin is so thin, the one little word will take somebody to court. Defamation. And there can be very serious cases of defamation. I just find it unbelievable that laws really are not there to protect the average citizen with a minimum wage job. Um, and it causes young kids, it causes adults, it causes people in their 70s concern with money, and it puts people into a state of anxiety. And if you're a person who went through any trauma as a child, any trauma, even in your 40s, trauma will affect the shrinkage of your brain if it's not dealt with immediately. And so, if you feel like you are not behaving the same intellectually or emotionally, and you're going down a rocky road with alcohol or maybe other, and people have many vices, and it can even be over exercising, which is healthy to a point. So, this is the way I look at labels of mental health. I think it's all BS. Scientifically, when you go through a trauma, I know from a car accident I had 15 years ago, there was shrinking on the left side of my brain, and not shrinking, bruising. And my cognitive skills were really, really, I was not well for 4 years. Just, I couldn't make a decision. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't think. Um, if I didn't, I would forget to eat. And my mother and her boyfriend would always bring me food, and they would say, if Lash doesn't get food brought to her, she won't feed herself. And this was years and years and years and years and years and years ago. And it got to a point where this trauma in my life, from, I believe, a mis my was diagnosed with bruising on the left side of the brain. However, there was no follow-up. However, when I did, my mother and I tried to sue the insurance company because somebody hit me sideways, but I was at fault because of, oh, I can't remember. I honestly can't remember why, but it was one of those sort of gray areas. It was both of our faults. It should have been 50-50, but at any rate, yeah, I had to do an IQ test, an emotional IQ test. I passed the emotional IQ test with flying colors. However, trying to piece together what angle is this square if you move it 15 degrees, and then there's four pictures and you have to pick it. In that state, I was in a state of anxiety. And what happens is during tests, during this situation with my leg, during interactions with individuals at times, um, it changes you. So when you're in a state of anxiety, you're in survival mode, and your brain, the amygdala, in whichever way you believe we evolved, scientifically is proven, if you believe in science, is the oldest part of our brain. It's attached to the spine and it signals off warning signs, and that's your gut intuition. So your amygdala is actually sending signals off to your stomach, and that's why people get feelings in their stomach, or they might feel out of sorts. Um, and then when you're in fight or flight and the amygdala's on fire, the cerebral cortex at the front shuts down, and that is where you make decisions. You learn how to problem solve. Because when you are called mentally ill, you're not. You're in a state of anxiety all the time, and anxiety is a state of not being present. So, for example, for me to stay present and explain what I did impromptu with no notes, I had to keep my eyes closed. So I'm going to open them now. And okay, I said what I wanted to say about anxiety. I really hope that helps. Trevor, hi, sweetheart. I got, yes, 2012 Mac. Oh, that's fantastic. Do you think the medical malpractice wouldn't have happened no, I think if oh, sorry, Trevor. You know what? I redid the apartment, and I'll turn this um no, you know what? I'm going to keep it here because I want to show you the apartment. Um it's a Oh, hello, Abhishek Jangra. Hello to you. Thank you for this live. If you just joined in, you'll have to rewatch it because it's probably one of the best explanations I've given about anxiety. And no, Trevor, I think that if everything in my life had gone the way I wanted it to and the way I planned it to be, just like many other people plan their life to be a certain way. And then all of a sudden, the rug is ripped from under you. That's why when you leave somebody, don't leave angry. When you go to bed at night, don't be angry because it just causes more stress, rumination in your mind. No, Trevor, we would not have met if that accident, not accident, if that surgeon hadn't have been a lying sociopath. No, we never would have met. We never would have met. And that's the truth. Because this accident, you know how hard I worked on getting people to sign the petition for the change.org. And 113 people have signed it, which is two more signatures in a year. Sometimes it takes a lot of time. I think that I should go back to the explanation on change.org and rewrite it because when I wrote that, I didn't write it. I was talking in my phone and I was in a state of anxiety and I wasn't present in the moment. Um, But at any rate, Trevor, it's Canadian Thanksgiving. That's why you've not been able to get a hold of me. I put up a video last night and Larry was over for dinner. I'm leaving in about 15 minutes to go to Concord because it's a beautiful day, probably the last day for a swim. And then tomorrow, Charlie is bringing over a turkey and we're having a second uh, uh, um, Thanksgiving dinner, and I want to send you pictures of how I set up the apartment. And Larry came last night for dinner. I actually go on the video and look at the a video that I uploaded this morning from last night's dinner. And Larry bought my mom and I turkey dinner from the hotel that we stayed at, Trevor, when we were looking for a place, the place right across the street. Life is so oh, of course we can talk later. How about it has to be like in the evening though. What time? Because I was thinking we should do a live tonight. You know what, Trev? I have to get dressed, take a shower, do my hair, blah 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 blah. And you know I hate putting makeup on stuff. So what I was going to say is just staying on track. If you can't answer me here, whatever works for me. Okay, so let's say 7 p.m. So it's, and yeah, 7 p.m. I have it. I'll put it in my journal because another thing, if you're a person in anxiety and you find it hard to stay in the moment, one of the strategies that really works is get a diary and write a list of things you need to do in the day. Like I know for myself, the position I was working at, the hours were so little. Um, I needed to find other things to keep me busy. And if you're not busy all the time, it can lead to boredom. But boring is as boring does. But also, when you're in state of anxiety, you don't know what to do with yourself. And the first thing that I would do is practice breathing. And Trevor, we can talk about more of this subject tonight. And I'll just call this part one, healing and dealing with anxiety. Yeah, yeah. My mom says, why don't you say it, Mom? Mom, you got to speak a little louder.
Trevor, the Canadian tradition is that Canadians eat their turkey dinner out of boxes, so there's no dishes.
But guess what, Trevor? We're having a second turkey dinner with Charlie tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
And Charlie's bringing a turkey. And I'm charging my scooter battery at my friend's house. And then I'm going to take my scooter and go get some groceries for tomorrow as well. So, okay. Thank you, anybody who listens to this. I really appreciate it. I hope it was helpful. Um, if anybody has any stories to share, you can email me, you can comment. Trevor, please subscribe to Trevor's Infinite Horizons. And one of the participants on the channel, and you'll find her art. Trevor, can you find me that Sophie video and send it to my text messages? Because I want to talk about Victor Victoria and Sophie Ann, and that picture is in that video you made. And Trevor and he does a lot of, he's like my free Apple tech support person. And that would be a really good reason to subscribe to his channel because he would help you. But you know what, Trevor? If people have questions and they need technical support, you should show them how to do it versus, spending time for free because I don't I tried that with the Amazon tickets and all of that, and it was a really sweet community at the beginning, and 4% return, which 40 people out of 1,050 of us, um, might not seem like a lot to other channels and what they talk about or what talks about, et cetera, et cetera. However, I love to get to know the people on YouTube. And it's funny because the other day I did a live, Trevor, on that cooking segment, and T Bird, I haven't seen forever. And I have to subscribe to Melody Moon's channel. Now, she's a participant on this channel who actually, in 2020, turning 2023 to 2024, spent time and Trevor and Melody Moon got to meet each other. And I was supposed to be there, but based on circumstance. The other thing that stops anxiety is the people that give you anxiety or people that trigger you even though you might care about them, if you grow up in an environment or if you're violated the way Virginia Giuffre was or the way I was, the people that are supposed to protect you, if they don't protect you, even as an adult, you fall into unhealthy behaviors that a lot of people aren't even aware of, and they won't even take feedback on themselves about themselves. And so I think staying out of anxiety, being self aware, putting yourself in other people's shoes before judgment is something that this society is lost. And, everything is now a label. And really, it's about controlling our behavior. And I can tell you that I've been an open nerve my whole life. And I honestly don't know how I got through living normalcy, 100% law abiding citizen, everything perfect until I was almost 40. And now I'm 54. That's, 14 years. And 8 of them were tied up with my trauma. And it did change me 100%. So I'm aware of it. And I just hope that it can, like I used to be so closed that if somebody even asked me a question about my father, I would change the subject and I would say that's really not appropriate. I'm the regional supervisor and I don't share any personal information. That's the way I used to be. And so because of the trauma, although unfortunate, I've met a lot of really good people. I met Trevor. I'm living in a really nice place. I upgraded the apartment, meaning all I did was my mother had the best idea, put the couch on the other side, move all that junk away, and, you know, put the TV on the other side. And I put my dining room set up the way it was, Trevor. So it's smaller, it's different, but um, at any rate, okay, I'm losing focus right now, so I have to go. And Trevor will talk after, and we can do a live tonight if you want. All right? To all those Canadians out there, oh, thank you so much, Trevor. To all those Canadians out there, happy Thanksgiving. And if you get anxiety around your family, just breathe and stay in the moment. I know, my mom is a genius. Okay, thanks, everybody.